Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Wayne Hoffman, president of Idaho Freedom Action, here yet again with another celebrity from the Idaho legislature. Yes, a celebrity, I say. Not really, but it's Mike Kingsley, who has a pretty good voting record there in the legislature. Now, Mike, you're kind of people will say that you're in a swing district, that you're in a district that tends to have a lot of leftists, but yet you have a really superb voting record. I know you get a lot of crap from the news media because of it, but how do you do that? How does that work for you?
Well, I think District 7, which was previously 6, is a lot more conservative than the Lewiston Morning Tribune or the left-leaning people of that district think. And I think once you're able to talk to them and talk to them about conservative values, they go, yeah, you're right. But boy, it's just been a really tough district because of the strong unions with the mill being there and some of the manufacturing. Has been a tough district, but a few of us have really broken open the doors. I think in 2016, beating the minority leader was huge for our district, and so that I think we're in good shape. But it
I
is
love
tough.
that. I love that election too because the minority leader had put out a statement where he talked about how he had the best freedom index score of all the Democrats or something like that. So he was trying to really, and I guess he had recognized that there was some value in promoting that metric. So he was certainly trying to appeal to somebody up there that he was moderate enough to satisfy even the conservatives from that district.
Yeah, it's we have Marty Trilhasi, who or House, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he
Party Trumps.
Trillhouse, yeah, he jeered the minority leader, and I think it was the first jeer ever in the 12 years that he had been minority leader. So he jeered him over his making a big deal out of his freedom score. So that was
Yeah,
pretty
so
fun.
so my buddy Marty Trillhouse, the opinion writer at the Lewiston Tribune, he comes down on you quite a lot. Do you
Oh
get
man,
feedback from people about that? Do people come up to you and say, "Oh my gosh, you must have really screwed up because here you're being jeered by the Lewiston Morning Tribune"?
yeah. Well, I quit counting after 20, and that was like a few years ago. So I can't even imagine how many it's been. But yeah, no, I do get people saying, well, if and the biggest comment I get is if Marty's against you, you must be doing something right. So, I take it as a badge of honor.
Yeah, I always wince a little bit whenever Marty sends a cheer over towards us because that
Yeah,
tells you that something's not quite right there. But
boy,
I guess every now and then you're going to agree on some things. But
yeah.
to the degree
The,
that I
the,
could avoid, I try to.
he is very good about letting you respond. He'll give you 750 words to respond, and I do admire that they will do that. So that's good.
What's the hardest vote that you've had to cast for your district, considering that maybe it's not a Kootenai County, for example?
Medicaid expansion was a tough vote. I in hindsight, I wish I wouldn't have voted for it, but we had overwhelming support in Nez Perce County for it, and yeah, that's been the hardest vote. And I think, and now what are we 4 years later? We can see the results of Medicaid expansion, and what we were promised is nothing close to being what it is, which we kind of expected. But I think what we really thought was that Nolman's numbers would be wrong, that there would be a lot more people. Well, they got the people right, but they didn't get the expense right. And so now we're to the point of it's unsustainable, as you know, and we're going to have to really do something about Medicaid.
What were your thoughts in voting for it at the time?
I think the fact that that I was still trying to get reelected, and that's just being honest. I was thinking, okay, well, if we're almost at 70%, the pressure was on from the Tribune and from that to support it. But in hindsight, I regret that vote. So you asked me what was the hardest, and that was it.
Is it hard for you when, say, the college and university budgets come up? because obviously U of I is right over there, and there's a certain amount of pressure, I would presume, to support the school.
Yeah, Lewis Clark State is,
I'm sorry,
and
yeah, I should have said that. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
Lewis
Lewis Clark
Clark
State
State,
College.
they do a pretty good job in comparison to the other three schools, but that's still, uh, is difficult because we have to vote for the entire budget. BSU and LCSC are two different complete. They're just oil and water. They're so different, but yet it is hard. It's very, very hard because you want to be supportive of LCSC. It's not the same population. It's older students. They do a good job with career technical, but then you got BSU that's just diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of that doesn't. But it is difficult to try to do those.
I mean, it would be easy enough to take the budgets for the universities and split them up. I don't know why they don't do that.
I would really like for them to do that.
Have you talked to anybody about that?
I have, but it seemed like it just didn't go anywhere. That would be a JFAC item, and I bet that it needs to be done. It really does.
So you've been in the legislature for a bit. What are the things that you've accomplished that you're proud of? And well, why don't you answer that first, then we can talk about what's next for you.
Well, as I ran in 2014, I lost that election by 48 votes, which was close, but it inspired me to run in 2016. I ran on alcohol and drug addiction and trying to get to the what we could do about that. And we started fledgling recovery centers, which doesn't take a lot of taxpayers' money. It's basically to keep the lights on. Working hard towards that, and we've got 9 centers that. The one in Latah County, I'm very proud of, which is the Moscow Recovery Center. They see over 5,000 people a year with very little state money. I think it's like $45,000 a year for that. But it's just the ability for people that have struggled with addiction issues, helping other people is peer to peer. That really works, and it's not when they send people to these recovery centers and the state pays for it, they use it like a vacation, and it doesn't have some successes, yes, but I'm a firm believer in peer to peer, that people in recovery helping other people. The AA program, NA programs, all those programs work on that premise. So if you've been through this, you can help other people. So
why are you so passionate about that issue? You brought that up several times with me in the past.
Yeah, well, I struggled with alcohol addiction with myself. I had gastric bypass surgery in 2005, and when you have that, and I lost a lot of weight, but one beer was like drinking 3 beers, and they never warned me ahead of time that, Mike, you're not going to be able to drink after the surgery, and so it really became. I saw from being a person who could drink a beer now and then to having a problem. For 5 years, it really was really bad for me. But I got involved with AA, and I just learned about, and seeing people go from darkness to light was amazing. And so that's why I have such a passion for this, and will continue to have a passion for it for the rest of my life. I've seen lives been saved, and I've seen people that had a problem that either they came in the program and then they left, they died. And I've been to many of those funerals. And so, yes, I really think that peer to peer, and that the state helping with increasing the peer to peer is important. And that's why it's important to me.
What are you looking to do going forward?
Well, I'm really excited to be a part of the Idaho Freedom, not the Idaho Freedom Caucus. I'm
They only borrowed part of her name, not the whole
Yeah,
thing.
well, I was getting a little confused there, but they I'm thrilled that we're connected with Washington D.C. and we've got some great people behind it, and organized, and that to me is what I plan on really pushing and trying to get people to be a part of. We need to get rid of these rhinos that have come on board and switch them to Freedom Caucus members so that we can really grow the Freedom Caucus. I think it's
How
important.
how likely is that to happen with people up in your neck of the woods?
I'm working on them. I'm seeing some results.
Are
Had some,
you?
yeah. I've talked with a few of them that have said, yeah, I can see the importance of this, and I really think that one in particular, and I won't mention his name, but pretty excited. I think that he's coming around, so
I
we'll
think I know who
see.
you're talking about because I've noticed a difference.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm still working with him, and I think that we can bring him around. So,
What's
great,
your
great, great guy.
Really nice guy? What's your biggest disappointment from the session? What do you wish either had
Oh,
passed or that had passed that you don't like that bothers you?
oh, this session, yeah. Well, all the social issues, that we dealt with, the surgeries for kids and puberty blockers and the library bill. So many that were just. I mean, I kind of just shake my head and wonder why are we even debating these things? They're so. I mean, it's horrible, especially the library bill, where it's just trying to groom kids into the sexualization of kids. We used to fight tooth and nail to protect kids, and now we're introducing this stuff in the library and then fighting to defend that. And it really bothers me that's we're even having the conversation about it. I mean,
Yeah,
so blunt.
no one's ever explained to me why a public tax funded libraries are buying these kinds of books in the first place.
Well, and then being so adamant that they're going to defend that position when
Yeah.
it's just it doesn't make sense to me. But there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me.
So you're on the Health and Welfare Committee,
Yeah.
which, here's a lot of hard luck cases and from people who have all kinds of different um points of view about how government should be involved in healthcare. It was kind of interesting that the committee um didn't I thought they would that the committee didn't vote to continue the maternal mortality committee, which was I don't remember if he voted for that to start that program or not.
No,
Do
I
you?
voted against it. And
Yeah,
after researching and there was such a little number of people. I mean, I
like
shouldn't.
11.
Yeah, I mean, and all this money going towards that study for 11 people, or but yeah, that was to me, it was a no-brainer that there,
Is that
and the other
does
thing
that
too is, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
I'll finish.
the it seemed to me to be a reiteration of the same the 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 first year. The same cause of those maternal deaths were the same as 4 years. It was like they were studying the same thing. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, what are we learning from this? So it didn't add up for me.
Is the lack because the way that bill died was for lack of a vote. There was a committee hearing on it, and then the issue was postponed and then never brought back up again.
Hmm.
Is that a reflection that the committee is more conservative than it's been, or that the issues that maybe um, certain issues are dicier than they used to be? It just seems that there's been some kind of a change in that committee, but I'm not sure how to quantify it or clarify it.
We're pretty evenly on that. We're one or two votes away usually from. It's pretty divided, surprisingly, even with the Democrats. That we're pretty close in there. Um, and I don't recall that bill that well. I'm struggling trying to remember it.
Well, there was at one point a discussion about, and in fact, the Health and Welfare Department was pushing for it through that maternal mortality board to extend Medicaid to any woman, postpartum for 12 months.
Mm.
And I thought there'd be legislation brought, but there never was. And that kind of surprised me. What about you?
Yeah, like I said, I just don't. I can see it being a catalyst to trying to expand or Medicaid, but yeah, I guess just can't comment because I don't remember it that well.
Okay. Oh, you're the vice chairman of the local government committee.
Yeah.
Uh, what are we seeing from that committee in particular? Because it seemed kind of pretty light this year in terms of the local government committee.
Yeah, I think we had one bill in there that was kind of controversial in a way that I might be mixing up my committees, but META or the trying to get the Facebook's big building built out in Meridian, or they they tried to get two different tax breaks. We gave them a tax break for the first one, but then they tried to use the URA to do another one. And Barbara Ehart, who chairs that committee, couldn't make the meeting, so I had to chair it. And I was really tempted to say, "Hi, Mark Zuckerberg," on the microphone because I knew he'd be watching, but I didn't. But I thought it would have been
That's
funny.
their
But
project. Is Facebook had that basically that law was passed for mega companies, data centers, and
right,
so really it's Facebook, Google, Amazon. That's pretty much it. And
yeah,
Facebook took the bait. I don't know if they were already in line to receive it before the bill was passed, but they took that and then they created an urban renewal district, and so they're basically double dipping on the taxpayers.
right.
Uh,
And
and in fact,
I believe we killed it. I believe we only gave them
yeah,
the one, yeah, which
yeah.
was good. But IACI was really pushing to get that through for them. So
Yes, they were. And speaking of IACI, you're on the Commerce Committee, which took the first bite on that launch grant program, and that passed. What were your thoughts on that?
well, that was a stinker from the beginning and still a stinker. I just, what bothers me so much about that is you hear when the Biden administration was going to try to forgive the $10,000 in student loans, everybody threw a fit. Well, I don't understand what the difference is between what we did with the launch program. That I don't, it's the biggest push towards socialism that I've seen in the Idaho legislature. I mean, we
What do
just,
your constituents say about it?
oh, I haven't had that much feedback on it, but I don't think people are even that understand it. It's like most anything, everything. People are kind of apathetic until you sit down and talk to them. Then they're like, well, that doesn't make sense. And, that, but yeah, no, that's like I said on the floor, this is something that Oregon or Washington would do, but not Idaho. And here we are, what's next? And I mean, I get that the governor was under the gun to use the $400 million but I think it was the wrong way to do it. That we could have done a lot more, a lot different than
Well, you could have just given the money back to us, right?
that would have been huge. We had a chamber meeting yesterday, and we had a lot of questions about tax cuts and or property taxes, and you would think that we would have taken the surplus that we had and put it towards property taxes. And, like most governments, we decided to spend it. And, I would have really liked to seen further with property tax. And hopefully we can do something bigger this next year.
What else are you looking forward to for next year?
Oh, we've got, I'm working on a couple of things. One bill that I'm going to try to bring up is a 2-year waiting period before a legislator can go to work for any agency or lobbying group. We seem to have a trend going that you go from the legislature into some cushy job, and I think you ought to have a 2-year waiting period. I work on that, and then once again, this year I also with Joe Alfieri, Representative Alfieri, we tried to reel in absentee balloting. And the portion that I was really trying to work on was my daughter received from the Democratic Party, a request for a ballot that was delivered to our home that was 6 years. My daughter hasn't lived with us for 6 years, but yet here came this form that was completely made out, all detailed, her name, address, everything. All it needed was a signature and a date, and it could have been mailed into the secretary or the clerk's office. And I was tempted to, see if I could forge her name and send it in just to see if I could get a ballot. Of course, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. I'd be in jail, but it was not, I'm come to my
You'd hope
senses.
so, but I don't know if you would. Would they even
Yeah.
catch you?
That's the point I was trying to see, was that, which we ought to do. We ought to see if we could do something to make, but anyway, your question of what are you going to do? I'm going to try to bring back to stop parties from sending out ballot requests. And I'm going to try to run that as an individual bill, and I think it'll pass. So those are two things that I'm going to be working on.
Nice. Well, you're doing excellent work, and great to have you around over there. It really is, and appreciate you a lot. And I appreciate you being on the program today.
Yeah, well, it was good catching up with you. So good.
Thanks, Mike. Talk to you
All
again
right.
soon.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.